السلام عليكم. أنا اسمي لورا. هناك قناتي في يوتيوب لغة مع لورا. Hello everyone, my name is Laura and this is my channel Languages with Laura. Today we are going to talk about writing systems and scripts. And before you click off this video, let me just say, one of the first things I'm going to talk about is why it's important to learn the writing systems, even if you're only wanting to learn how to speak and listen to a language. Okay, so hear me out. If you want to learn a language in order to travel to a different country or talk with people, I think it is still worth learning the writing system, because if you're traveling, there are going to be signs, transportation, written on the names of stations might be written somewhere that you will want to be able to read them, menus, things like that. It's just good to at least know, be able to sound out or know the basics of the writing system of the language you are studying. And if it's to communicate with people, but you're not necessarily traveling, some of the best things you can do for your language learning and just to have relationships with these people are to do cultural events or go to cultural restaurants with them. And then there too, there will most likely be writing, signs, menus, whatever, that it would be nice to be able to hold your own looking at the menu. If you are trying to learn the language, if you're trying to speak the language, at least be able to also read it. Another reason to learn how to use the writing system of the language that you're studying is because it's honestly good practice. Even if, again, your focus is just on speaking and listening, being able to write the word will help you remember the word, especially not getting letters confused or sounds confused. If it's supposed to be an R instead of a T sound or something like that, you get more comfortable with the words and you can learn them faster. Also, if you're a visual learner, like me, I need to see the language. Learning languages from podcasts do not work for me unless there's some sort of script or transcription or something that I can follow to physically see the language, because I'm a visual person. So even, again, if you're a visual learner, but you are wanting to learn a language just to speak and listen, you're gonna have to learn the writing system if you're gonna learn it efficiently with minimal stress and spend your energy more wisely. There are two other reasons I have of why you should learn how to read and write in your target language. The first is because sometimes the language you're learning, writing it is faster than your native language. So, and this especially goes for students or people who have to take a lot of notes. Writing in English is not always the fastest. And some languages you can just write faster in. I know, my Mandarin teacher was obsessed with the idea that I could write faster in Mandarin because writing the characters, once you know how to write the characters, you would write them so much faster than you would an English word. And some characters, yes, that is true. Others, no, not necessarily. But that's very specific. But other languages that have a more connected type alphabet or a different type of writing system, which I will go over a little bit later in this video, for example, that are connected, such as the Arabic writing system. Everything's connected. I can write that faster than I can write English because my pen does not leave the page near as often. Same thing with Cyrillic, but hear me out first. Learning to write in Russian cursive is a pain. Yes, I had to learn Russian cursive in class, and also because students use it. People actually use it. So I had to learn Russian cursive, which, yes, is such a pain to learn because it's very hard if you didn't grow up with that kind of cursive. I grew up with English cursive though, luckily, although not a lot of Americans are learning cursive in schools anymore, and that kind of bums me out a little bit, but that's personal opinion. But once you get the hang of Russian cursive, yeah, it's a lot faster to write in, but not all the words are necessarily shorter. So it really depends on what your native language is and the language that you are learning, because sometimes, like I said, it's faster, sometimes it is not. And the final reason I have to learn how to write your target language. Honestly, because some of those languages are just really pretty to look at. And there's calligraphy, which is a hobby or a profession, an art form in other languages and cultures. And it can be another way to just engage yourself in the culture if you learn how to do calligraphy in that language. And also, it can kind of be like, I don't ever want to diminish languages down, but it can also be kind of a cool party trick. Just to get other people interested in other languages or things that you're passionate about in other languages. If you can like write somebody's name in a pretty calligraphy, that's kind of cool. And it gets people more interested in that language. Like, I have had so much fun. My Mandarin teacher tried teaching us Mandarin calligraphy, really fun. Arabic calligraphy, absolutely gorgeous, and it is all over the place. And I've even seen a professional Korean calligrapher write, and it is just mesmerizing. So calligraphy, honestly, that's a pretty good reason. Although one thing to note with Mandarin is that sometimes how the calligraphy they do is in like the traditional characters instead of like the modern standard, the simplified, that's what we call them in English, the simplified characters. So just think about that if you're a Mandarin student and you decide, yes, you are going to learn the characters and you want to do calligraphy. I'm not discouraging you. A lot of times calligraphy is with traditional characters, which tend to be a lot busier than the simplified characters, but there's also some really cool history behind those characters and why they are that way. So you can make it a whole project, a whole weekend project devoted to one character. And learning the writing system just makes you a little more well-rounded and you're a little more prepared for whatever random things may fly your way. Now that we've gone over all of my reasons to learn the writing system of your target language, let's talk about the different writing systems that there are in the world. So obviously, I've already talked a little bit about alphabets. Alphabets are a writing system on their own, and you have one letter per sound. And this is where like spelling is a huge thing. You gotta learn how to spell things. But there are different kinds of alphabets, of course. There's like the Roman alphabet, which a lot of Romance languages use, as well as English and Germanic languages. There's also the Greek alphabet, which to my knowledge is really only used with Greek. There might be some other languages in and around Greece that I'm not aware of, so if you know, comment down below, but I am mostly familiar with Greek as being used for Greek. There's also the Cyrillic alphabet. Again, like I've mentioned with Russian and other Slavic languages, will use the Cyrillic alphabet. So every individual letter has a sound to it, and it typically includes include consonants and vowels as separate letters, and both appear in the words. It's an important distinction because another type of alphabet are actually called abjads, and an abjad is just consonants. So it's kind of the same idea of you have a letter for a sound, but it's only with consonants. You don't typically have vowels, or at least not all of the vowel sounds. Hebrew is infamous for this because they don't write any of their vowels. You pronounce them, but you do not write them. And so it is classified as an abjad language, as well as Arabic, actually. With Arabic, it's a little more complicated, to me at least, because you have short vowels and long vowels, and in Arabic you do write the long vowels, but you don't write the short vowels. There are ways of writing them down so that learners and children can understand to identify words visually and associate them with their correct pronunciation, but in official scripts, there are no short vowels that are written in Arabic, thus it is classified as an abjad writing system. Building off of that, there is also the abugidas alphabet. And if I'm saying these wrong, I read these. I haven't actually heard the pronunciation for these, but abugidas is also known as the syllabic type of writing system, where it's mostly based on syllables. So if you're not sure what a syllable is in English, we are taught what syllables are with the clapping method. So clapping has 2 syllables because you go clapping. Chunks of sound, or the method that we learn in school is clapping for every sound chunk you make. If that doesn't make sense, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to look it up because I can't explain it better than that. But a lot of languages will have one written element, not really a letter in the same way that we use in English, but some sort of image, visual representation for a consonant vowel combination. Typically, sometimes it is also consonant vowel consonant. That just depends on the language, but again, it's syllable, so it's bo, ro, to, ba, ra, ta. Japanese has 3 different writing systems, and 2 of them are used like this. The hiragana and katakana, those are syllabic writing systems, and so is Hindi. A lot of times, if there are similar sounds within the syllable versus to, ta, the visual character will look similar to indicate that, but that is not always the case. Well, at least that's how it is in Hindi, is that they look somewhat similar because they have the same consonant or the same vowel, but I do not believe that is the case in katakana or hiragana. So, for all you Japanese learners, I'm sorry. Now, switching gears for a moment, because those 3 writing systems to me seem very similar because you still have an individual symbol that represents something to do with a morpheme or a phoneme, and that is a bit of sound or a combination of sounds, to that you get multiple written elements in a row to form a word, something with meaning, or not quite, but mostly. But there are still 2 other writing scripts that don't follow under that umbrella. The first one is a little confusing, but I only have one good example of it, and I'm not very familiar with it, but according to my research, we have something called a featural writing system. And the example I have for this is the Hangul, which is used for Korean. And this, it kind of is similar to the syllabic style writing system, but the reason it's classified differently is because it's not about the meaning of the sounds. It was created to show you how your mouth is supposed to be formed when saying the word. So with Hangul, I don't speak Korean, I haven't learned Korean, but I know a lot of people who do speak Korean and have learned Korean. Your word may have a couple of different symbols that represent different sounds or combination of sounds, but the letter system itself is not about the meaning, it's about how you shape your mouth. It's supposed to be a guide so that you can read it in a very physical way. So that's called the featural. I did not find a lot, like I said, I didn't find any other examples other than Korean, but also when I looked for writing systems, it didn't even come up most of the time, but I do think it's worth mentioning, especially since Korean is such a popular target language to learn for a lot of us polyglots. So there it is, featural. Hangul. How it shapes your mouth. And I will say though about this writing system, it's not exclusive to physical aspects. It really just means any language where you have symbols that represent something other than consonants, vowels, and meaning specifically. So that's why it's a little confusing. It's not well talked about. But let's move on to the final writing system, and that is the logographic systems, also encompassing the ideographic and hieroglyphic types and pictogram types. So this is where you have a symbol that has an entire meaning. It's not just about the sounds you make, but every written letter, character, they're not really referred to as letters, they're more so referred to as characters or hieroglyphics or pictures, because it has a meaning behind it, not just a sound. And a lot of times these characters can also be combined to create longer words, to create more meaning. But if you break it down, every single piece has a meaning behind it. So the most famous one would probably be Mandarin Chinese, because they're characters. Each character has a meaning to it. It has something behind it, something that it is conveying. It's not just sound, it's What's the message behind what it's saying? For example, just your basic greeting, 你好. 你 means you. 好 means good. So 你好 together is you good, but it's used as a greeting, as hello. So you take the basic word for hello and you can break it up because it has two characters. You can break it up into their smaller meanings. 你好, you good. Hello, how are you? Are you good? But then to, make it a question, you add ma at the end of it. So 你好吗? You good question? But this is not a Mandarin lesson, so I won't go too into it. But again, another famous one are the Egyptian hieroglyphs because it is an image that represents a meaning. This is also what kanji is like. So not just hanzi, but kanji in the Japanese language as well. It's an image for a meaning. So I'm sure there are other languages around the world that use this. I just know of these Asian languages, East Asian languages, and Egyptian. Those are just the examples that I could think of when exploring what these different kinds of writing systems were and how they're used. So writing systems don't just mean alphabets. Alphabets are a part of writing systems, but it's not the only writing system. Like, you don't say, oh, what's the writing system? Cyrillic. No, the writing system is an alphabet. The alphabet is Cyrillic. If I missed any of them, let me know. And if you have any fun facts about writing systems, comment them down below. I would love to hear from you. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't think it's important to learn reading and writing, that is your opinion and you are welcome to have it. I am not saying that everybody has to learn them. I'm just recommending and encouraging you to, but if that is not how your brain works, if that is not your intentions, that's not the worst thing in the world. But I do think it's really fascinating to learn about these different writing systems. So comment down below your experience. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. I also have social media linked in the description below. And be sure to hit the subscribe button if you like language learning content, language informational content, and travel, because I am posting videos every week. So not only subscribe, but hit the bell to be notified for when these videos go up. Shukran, thank you, and until I see you all in the next video, ma salama.